Journalist Bill Moyers once said, "The quality of democracy and the quality of journalism are deeply entwined." Well, local news outlets are on life support across the country, while democracy itself is on the ballot in the November presidential election. KPBS's Amitha Sharma is joining me now to discuss two bills in the California legislature that would require search engines and social media platforms to compensate outlets for accessing their news content. So, Amitha, tell me about the two bills.
Well, John, the first bill, AB 886, would mandate that a platform, whether social media or search engines, compensate news websites for accessing their stories, possibly through a set fee or an amount set by arbitration. The bill would require that 70% of those fees be used toward keeping news reporting jobs in California. The second Senate bill is 1327. This is an interesting one. It would force the big platforms to pay a tax for the data they collect on all of us users. And that tax money would be handed over to news organizations through a tax credit, again, for employing news reporters.
So, Amitha, the goal here is to throw a lifeline to journalism in the state. In fact, AB 886 is called the California Preservation Act. You've written extensively about the shrinkage of local news coverage. So, what are supporters of the bill hoping for here?
John, they're hoping it stems the bleeding. A little context. Since 2005, the United States has lost an average of 2 newspapers a week, according to researchers at Northwestern University's Medill School of Journalism. There are around 6,000 newspapers left in the country, and most of them are weeklies. And in California, here's a little bit more background on just how big a financial hit newspapers have taken over the past 10 years. Advertising at newspapers has plummeted 66%. Newsroom staff has sunk 44%. Now, John, you and I have been around for a long time. If you look at the UT 20 years ago, it had a newsroom of 400 people. Today, that staff has dwindled to about 50 staff. Look at what's happened to neighboring counties. Look at LA County. You see the Los Angeles Times, you see the Orange County Register, you see the Riverside Press Enterprise in Riverside County. Those papers are all mere shells of what they once were. The massive hit to newspapers has left vast swaths of news deserts for coverage so inadequate, it's irrelevant. This has huge implications for democracy. If you don't have journalists digging up the truth, shining a light on corruption, or as Scott Lewis at Voice of San Diego said to me recently, sharing the story of your community, you are out of touch with your own environment. You're left with no idea on what government is doing in your name. You don't know what business is doing, and you don't know how to vote. Studies show that voting dips when local news shrinks. This is why Brittany Barsati, who is general counsel for the California News Publishers Association, says her organization is co-sponsoring SB 886.
We have a number of small publications that have come out in support, as well as labor. They voted unanimously to support AB 886 because of the requirements that the money go to journalism jobs. And as one of my colleagues there says, when management and labor are aligned on something, you should really pay attention. That means that this bill is going to be really critical.
Gosh, the statistics are just astonishing. What does Google have to say about all this?
Well, I reached out to a company spokesperson at Google, and he declined an interview, but he did send me a write-up on testimony on the issue offered by Google executive Jaffer Zadie to the California Senate Judiciary Committee in June. And in that testimony, he said, while Google shares the goal of preserving local news coverage, it believes SB 886 is the wrong approach and will have damaging consequences, and that Google's, quote, surfacing links to news content is not commercially lucrative for Google.
Okay, so what happens next?
Assemblywoman Buffy Wicks, who authored SB 886, is currently in negotiations on the bill, and her spokesperson told me this week that the bill will be heard in Senate Appropriations on Thursday. As for SB 1327, I don't really have an update other than I've been told that it's been voted out of the Senate and is in the Assembly now.
Such an important issue. Amitha Sharma, thank you so much.
Thank you, John.